You've found AHO Radio. We're Authentic Human Outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic. To bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, John Krotec and Bill Protzmann. Hey, John. How's things this morning?
West coast of Florida, we're doing great. Every time I hear those drums, and we've said this a million times, it just gets the heartbeat going. It gets the blood flowing. It's like, and Valerie's over there. Valerie Shepard, our great guest today. As you can tell, she's got the vibe going on. And pleased to be here and with you, Bill, for sure. How's it out in California?
I'm a this West African drummer, so
yeah,
I haven't been to drum class in a while, but I try.
I was so glad to find those drums. It just, when you're listening to stuff and something just sort of locks in and you just know, yeah. And that's what it was, I
was talking to these guys up on the reservation this morning, and they were talking about tribes, and they were telling me, we're all from tribes. We're in different places of reality. And they were telling me this morning, you make your own reality. You're creative. We all know this. And how do you take that creativity into being responsible and doing something that is meaningful? But anyhow, super excited
how do you do that?
I don't know. Yeah. I gotta disagree with you on one thing there, John. I don't think we all know that we're creative. That we're all
no, we don't. No.
Yeah. We have to come awake, right?
Yeah, I didn't know. I used to say I have one famous time of when I was being interviewed for a job, and I didn't get this job, and the person asked me about my creativity. And I actually answered in all truthfulness, well, I don't think I'm very creative. I'm really highly analytical. Like, I really believe that.
Yeah, that was you at the time, right?
Yeah, that's where I was then.
Yeah.
Thankfully. And I was very creative. I didn't actually acknowledge that aspect of me because I thought what was going to make me successful, especially as a Black woman in this country in the 70s, was not my creativity. It was going to be my intellectual horsepower. And that's what I invested in. And that's what I prided myself on demonstrating.
Yeah. So it's important to know yourself though, right? And we grow up and then we continue to grow up and you learn things about yourself. Like I just learned about myself yesterday, things I didn't know. And if you're not doing that work, I mean, what other work is there to do, right? That's the fun stuff.
Yeah, it is fun. My own therapy throughout the years with my own story, I have found that you have to take responsibility. And when we don't do that is when we run the risk of staying in that dark place, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Valerie, because when you finally dig into the deep stuff, you have the ability, and I know you've done a lot of deep stuff, I've read your bio. When you dig into that deep stuff and you start to percolate who we are and what that means, this guy was telling me this morning, John, find your own reality. I said, I'm looking for it, like every day.
Yeah.
What is my reality? So yeah, just super cool to have you here. And I can't wait to hear your story and learn about your book and all the great work that you have done with, mastering ourselves.
So our guest this morning is Valerie Shepard, and if you are at all connected to YouTube, you will find Valerie all over the place.
Really?
And we need this. We need
more pictures. They're beautiful. Look at this picture right behind me.
Yeah. I mean, it's so there are truth tellers out there. Valerie, you're one of them, and we kind of do this backwards. We do the big reveal later on to talk about what you do. But who you are is the thing that's so intriguing to us on Authentic Human Outliers Radio, because in many ways, a lot of us who are pushing the envelope are out there on the outlier edge. We're on some like to say the bleeding edge, and yeah, it does bleed from time to time. But it's so great to be able to welcome you here and to offer a place where you can share your authenticity and hopefully lead other people by example to being more authentic versions of themselves. Isn't that strange? I mean, we're doing that all the time. I mean, I just deepened yesterday. So, hey, good morning. How are you? Welcome aboard.
Good morning. John and Bill. This is such a delight, and thank you for greeting me with drums. I think the ancestors are dancing and we're ready to play, and
Awesome.
I'm just so honored and pleased and thrilled to be here, and you know, in honor of that, my nose started to run. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this is an awesome time, and authenticity. All of the stuff that you talk about is the richness in that, and the different angles in those topics are um, really exciting to me, and so I'm really glad to be here.
So this is
Awesome.
a long question, but how did you come to do the work that you do? Like what inside you led you in that direction from the interview that from that point until today? Like what inside what was the internal compass pointing toward?
The compass was pointing toward there must be more than this, and the question was, is this really my life? I had gotten to a place where I was supposedly uber successful. I mean, I'm not as successful as billionaires and millionaires, but I was on the path, and I thought I was, you know, I was doing some, the juju. I was a vice president of a big corporation, Fortune 250, and running a bill, close to $1 billion portfolio, 900 plus $1 million portfolio of brands. I was living in this lovely 24-hour guard gated community in a beautiful house, and I'm driving my convertible Saab, and I thought I was, I was the stuff, the shizzle, as they say. And my life was so wonderful. So I thought. And things started to unravel. And there were days when I came, like I talk in my book, like 300 some odd days. I come down the elevator, and on the way to my car, I'm in tears. And by the time I get to my car, I'm crying. Because what was true was I wasn't happy at all. I was living a life where I felt like I was having to be a chameleon. And this is no blame on anyone. I take full responsibility for what was going on with me. So, I was trying to be a chameleon. I was trying to do what I thought I had to do to be successful, not what I wanted to do. I was also, I didn't know this then. I know now. I was not being who I truthfully am. I was being, again, these conditioned patterns of behavior, and a lot of them rooted in some dark stuff. A lot of the patterns of behavior were rooted in um, belief systems that came from ancestral energy and also came from
Yeah,
conditioning in the 60s. And
yeah.
I got to a place where I was like, okay, if this isn't really supposed to be my life, what is? And so I went on a several years journey of introspection and spiritual awakening and dynamic spiritual teachers and certifications and a number of different things to figure out what's going on below the surface. And that's what put me on this path. It felt like the minute I discovered it and I could distill it from all these different things that I did and distill it into, oh, it's this, then it felt really um, like I had to give it away, right? It's like when you discover something that can support other people, not everybody. I'm not the juice for everyone to drink, but there are a lot of people who are at the exact place where what I'm teaching works for them. And so it just became kind of obvious, and the call from the divine was pretty loud to uh, to give it away.
You mentioned two things that just stick out to me right away. Unhappiness and responsibility and darkness, maybe the third thing, darkness, because we all go to those places, or we have been there. I read a report, an article the other day. It was a survey that was taken, people of all colors, both genders, different socioeconomic categories, and they came up with 92%. I'd have to find that article, but 92% of those people who were surveyed were not happy with where they were at in life.
Wow.
And so if we think about that, 90 out of 100 people that we pass every day is in an unhappy place. And I know you've probably heard of Sadhguru. Sadhguru, he's this Hindu guy on YouTube as well. He's got these videos, but he talks about one person out of 100, his experience is on this journey for high consciousness and enlightenment. And then there's only 10% out of 100 are actually working in the worlds that you're talking about. So wow, the world, and then there's other stats out there, but the world is broken. And 70% of people out there have been traumatized by at least one major event in their life. And this is all peoples. And, it could be financial ruin, sexual assault. It can be bullying. It can be racism, all this trauma, humankind is just all of those and everything else. Yeah. And I'm childhood sexual assault guy and traumatic brain injury and all these lovely things that happen to humans. And so here we are on Authentic Human Outliers, and we're trying to connect dots, and you have been connecting a lot of dots. So tell us a little bit about, the book, Living Happy to Be Me. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Oh, I so love that you asked.
This book behind me right here.
And this book behind me.
That's the one.
You got the same one.
Yes, I do. I love this book. I guess, am I allowed to say that? I'm being authentic. I love this book.
Absolutely.
A lot of what I feel is divine energy came through me to go in that book. There were several times where I was like, really? I'm really supposed to write this? But when you do something and you go back and look at it and you kind of go, wow, I did that. That's one of the few things in my life that I do that with. There are others, but nothing as profound for me as Living Happy to Be Me, Dancing Your Soul Light Style. The book is the distillation of all the different teachings. When I started looking at all the stuff I was looking at, and like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. And then I would try it on and practice and move in certain directions and move around. And the movement is where the word dance came from in the title, the movement of me, the movement of the divine within me and as me and through me. Like all of that felt like dancing. But the book is an effort to show people that there's only really, according to all these different practices and all these different, from the Vedas to the, to Christianity, there's only one way to have true happiness. And the book talks about happiness because that's the way in. I mean, I'm really talking about bliss. I'm really talking about joy. I'm really talking about your divinity. But happiness is what people are looking for. So like you said, 90% of people don't have it and want it. So I talk about that as a way to get them to look at the higher level issue is raise your consciousness.
Yeah.
Like the object of raising one's consciousness. And I write this in the dedication to the book. It's the only way I've discovered of really having true happiness. And but by true happiness, I call it authentic happiness. What I mean is it's unconditional. It's not dependent on what's happening out there. It's really dependent on my vantage point, my perspective on myself, who I am in the world, who I'm being, and how the world works. And so that raising of the consciousness allows me to tap in, tune in, turn on, as Abraham Hicks would say, to the divine moving in everything, like an omnipresent. And I'm a monotheist, so I believe in one God, many paths, right? Like you can get to the city of Cincinnati through a lot of different paths. And so the one divine principle, which I believe is unconditional love. And there are many paths to be in that blissful space of, I am being love. I am being the love I came here to be, no matter what. And not an easy task, but it is a commitment. And so that's what the book is about, raising one's consciousness as a way to experience what you really want to experience in your life. It's more than just happiness, but you can't get any of it without elevating elevating yourself into the essential nature that you are. And that's what the capital ME in the book stands for. So if I break down the title, living means it's a way of life. It's not read a book and you're done, go on to the next thing, 2 principles. And it's not that. It's about a 24/7, 365 experience of yourself as divine principle in motion. And then happy is the joy, bliss. And then to be is we are humans doing, we're not humans being. And so I learned that
Love
about
that.
myself and how powerful it is to get into a state of beingness as opposed to doing, like be, do, have. I talk about that in the book. And then the capital M-A-M-E, people often think that it's like me yelling, I'm happy to be me. No, I'm not. The M-E stands for magnificent essence, which is the divine principle that is at once moving in, through, and around everything on the world, in the world, and the universe. It is who we are. We are integrated spiritual humans. And that is what I talk about, that most of us are taught to learn as humans. I'm only human, instead of integrating this other aspect of the self and hanging out there when we're driving, when we're shopping, when we're walking, when we're teaching, when we're making the donuts, whatever that is. And then the
So,
dancing is the
oh,
getting
no,
in.
go ahead. Finish up the title. I'm sorry. I'll ask you afterward.
So the dancing
So
is
dancing.
like, at any given moment, there's a lot going on. Like right now in the world, there is a lot going on. And you do a dip down and the ugly stuff comes up and the kooky stuff happens. And then I'm still there, right? I'm still here. So the dance is how do we flow, be in flow with all that's happening. And the last word is the soul light style. And I did that word on purpose. It's not lifestyle, it's light, because when you elevate your consciousness, all of a sudden you're up above all that muck and yuck, and it's like this lightness of being that you can take on to create the kind of life that you really want.
You
I
just
was going to
elevated me. I
ask
just
you,
got goosebumps like everywhere. When you said that light style, I love that. That's pretty cool.
I was
Yay!
going to ask you how you do this painlessly, because in my life it doesn't seem to be pain-free. Like awareness comes with, or pain comes before awareness. Have you ever had that experience of just being able to get into the knowing without having to wander through the jungle to get there?
I have, um, but not back then.
Right, right, right. Yes.
As a part of spiraling up, right, I go deeper. I always say this: deeper into my consciousness, higher into my soul, like higher into the divine. So the more I go deep and understand what's rolling around down there, I call it the iceberg below the surface, right? What sunk the Titanic wasn't the part of the iceberg that they could see with the binoculars. It was the part that was way deep under the water. And for all of us, there are icebergs underneath us. And the authenticity comes from being able to go in there and know what it is. When I say self mastery, it's about knowing who you are at the core, at a deep level, knowing why you say this word instead of that word, knowing why you feel comfortable over here instead of over there, knowing why when somebody gives you a certain kind of look, what goes on inside you and what do you think is happening. And so this whole idea of, can I get to the juicy core without going through the jungle, or sometimes for me, it's felt like crawling over glass, broken glass. Um, Maybe not, maybe so. Um, when I talk to my students about it, this whole idea, and I don't know that I like to enforce duality, like you can't have joy without having pain. I don't know that I don't know how I feel about that still. I'm still dancing with those statements. But what I tell my students and clients is, um, if you're feeling pain on your way to getting to this higher vibration of you, it's just your soul giving you an opportunity to release the pain. The universal laws operate in the universe just like gravity. So spiritual laws are governing the universe less like physical laws. So um, know it or not, understand it or not, like it or not, there's this law of resistance, right? Scientists have proven this. Law of resistance: when you put a force out there to resist what's happening, the force actually creates the energy that perpetuates what's happening. So the more I fight against dealing with, like right now, what I'm going through, and I can feel the waves of emotion, what's wanting to be released from me is, there's some ancestral energy that comes from the slave history of my family with all this racial tension and unrest, there's a lot coming up. It's coming up in me, it's coming up through me. And so when I can sit with it and like be at peace, call in peace, understand it, like go to it, go to the pain and say, okay, you got my attention. What is it that what's going on here? Like, what did you come to teach me, to show me? How is your presence the loving opening, the loving opening through which I can walk to a higher vibration of self, and as a result, attracts more of what I want and less of what I don't.
Yeah, I love the way you say that, and it's deep. A couple of the things too. I'm not sure either about the duality statements because I it's not really where my mind goes. I'm always thinking of something positive, no matter what's going on around me, which is a resilience journey from being assaulted at such a young age. But you mentioned a second ago, a couple minutes ago, you mentioned about the work, and Bill brought pain into it, but the work, and it's not easy, because when I went back to my own lineage, my white ancestors were enslaved by Muslims for over 400 years, and I'm like, holy cow, what the heck was going on there? And then it was the Turkish, and then it was the Serbians, and finally my grandfather got out of Dodge, so to speak. And I don't know if I ever felt the pain of racism like a Black American would feel it. I mean, I did live in the Virgin Islands for a couple of years, and I got banged around, but it was always my Black Island friends that came to my defense. So I have felt it in more of a topical way, but maybe not so much in a soul way, because my ancestors kind of got away from it. They got away from that Serbian hatred that my grandfather had. And so I woke up at a young age saying, this is not supposed to be like this. Am I supposed to feel this kind of pain in the third grade? And so, I guess it's whoever suffers the best. Bill and I have had that conversation before. Whoever kind of suffers through the pain and shelves it. And I can tell just by looking at you, and I've never met you, but I can tell that you have got an amazing spirit just by looking at you. And then the way the way it comes out, it couldn't be any more authentic. So, tell us a little bit more, Valerie, about the work that you're talking about, because I know you've been like to tons of workshops. And you've actually led some. Tell us about that.
Yes, I do. And I teach I created a course based on my book, a curriculum that I was teaching at the University of California, Irvine for several years. And it's called Living 101, when 101 being happy and whole. And so that is the journey to inner happiness, authentic happiness, and also wholeness. So I told a story at the beginning of our conversation about this thirst for the intellect without really understanding how creativity contributed to that, right? And so that wasn't being a whole person. I was faithfully honoring and cultivating my brain and leaving my heart behind. And I even had a jiwangjanim. I used to do a Korean style of movement and qigong and yoga. And the jiwangjanim was the highest person running the center. And he said, all of your energy stop here. Like the rest of your body is cold and you are hot-headed. And the whole idea is to be cool-headed and have your body flow warm energy. So that was part of the journey. But the work is always about that. It's about integrating your life into being this whole spiritual human entity and walking as the divinity that you are through the density of the third dimension called Earth. So the density of Earth has things like racism. It has things like classism. It has things like poverty. It has things like disease. It has things like fires. It has all kinds of dense kind of experiences. And then we can bring the intellect of the human and the imagination, intuition, inspiration of the divine in to solve these problems. One of my favorite quotes from a great intellect, Albert Einstein, is that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The conscious mind is its faithful servant. We have created a society that worships the servant and has forgotten the gift.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who I was being. I was worshiping the brain and I'd forgotten about my heart. And now I'm a practitioner and a student of heart math. And I understand the power of the intuitive mind and the intuitive ability in the heart. And so the work is about getting deep. I talk in my book about having been disconnected from my heart, but I kept feeling a call. I kept feeling it calling me. And I guarantee you that of those 90% of people who are not feeling fulfilled and content and happy in their lives, there's a call. Some of them may hear it and it may show up as a car accident. It may show up as a life-threatening illness. It may show up as a breakup or financial ruin. There are things in our lives that are constantly trying to get our attentions. And to the extent that we're willing to wake up from the illusion, to wake up in our lives, we'll hear that call. And then the work is about following the little breadcrumbs in the self-mastery quest. So knowing where does my anger come from? That was the big one for me. Like what propelled me forward was anger. And I love being propelled forward, but I want it to be inspiration. I want it to be a calling. I want it to be the divine. I want there to be sweetness, juiciness, deliciousness. I don't want to be propelled anymore by this angry thing inside me that came from the past, my past and my ancestral heritage through, the study of epigenetics is proving now that people carry stuff from
The memories stay forever, the genetic.
DNA.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty.
One of the things we have a responsibility to do right now is to ensure that future generations don't have this crap that's in our DNA. Like we need to heal ourselves, if only for the sake of the future. Like right now is really important, but this epigenetics should have everybody going, what am I giving to my, to not just to your kids, but offspring generations forward are going to feel what's going on with us. We need to do something about that. Like take responsibility, no blame, no shame, no guilt, no punishment. Just own it. Wow. How am I being better than I was yesterday? I mean, I cannot tell you how much is coming up for me about me relative to the racial dance that we're doing right now. I wrote on my Facebook page that awarenesses are coming that have me understand how complicit I have been in some of the ways the dynamics have played out, that there is conditioning. I don't blame myself. I know where it came from, but I bought in.
Yeah, you know how you fit into the picture. I
that
got
again?
that yesterday. When I watched 13 yesterday, I felt how I fit in finally.
Yes.
It was all out there and then suddenly it came home. So as somebody who has been through that journey, when you see someone who's just starting that journey, give that person some words of encouragement, because it feels really terrible to be like the guilty white guy or whatever your box is. You try to break out of that. It feels awful, the first step away from that box. What do you say to somebody there?
Well, I think the very first words that are coming to me are, I love you. So those are the first words. I think those would be great words for everyone to say whenever they're confronted with somebody who's just starting down this path. Just say, I love you. Just be love for them. We're not responsible for their path. That's their path. And then I think it's important to say, keep going. What we're trying to do right now is build, as Carolyn Mace would say, build a soul with stamina. Be a soul with stamina. John, you were talking about the resiliency of your ancestors coming through you and how you've overcome sexual abuse trauma and how you're still on this journey to be the light in spite of what you feel as darkness within you. And that's all of us. That's all of us, regardless of what traumas caused us to choose this path versus that path. We've all got them. So the I love you, keep going, I'm here for you. So it's not about I'm going to pull them into the light. I tell my students in my Living 101 class, on the first couple days of class, I talk to them about some students inevitably raise their hands. And I have some that I'm still in contact with today who are atheists. And I'm a spiritual teacher. My course says spiritual development. The book has the book in the first class. We don't use my book until the advanced class, but the book we use in the first class has spirituality in the title, right? So they're atheists signing up for this class that's called Living 101, Being Happy and Whole, where the book is spirituality. And I say to them, I'm not here to drag you into Christianity or spirituality. I don't care. Like, what I'm here to do is to offer you a way of life that can support you to be happy and whole. You choose. Ultimately, you choose. It's working for me, and I'm happy to work with anyone who wants to work with the principles and the teachings. I believe it's going to work, and you have to choose it. So for each of those people who's like, maybe, and I won't say confronting, I will say,
Yeah, it feels more like you're dragged kicking and screaming.
yeah. So I will say, to a person who is now um, maybe meeting for the first time,
Mhm.
the part of them that's been complicit silently, subconsciously, unconsciously in the racial trauma that is still, plaguing the United States, to be tender, to be in self-love, to be in forgiveness. Forgiveness and self-love, all forgiveness has to start here first. Like, I have to do it for myself. Otherwise, whatever I give out there is half-baked, right? If I have to be loving of the foibles and the mistakes and the low consciousness version of me as I am creating a higher consciousness version. So to that person, I would say, go easy, be tender, like, take your time, and by all means, go deep. This is not a surface level journey. And there are a lot of people who will tell you it's not. And I'm one who professes, no, this is calling you, and it's going to require you to go below the surface. The surface is where you've been living. How's that been going? Like, I talk to my students, like, why there are 100 faces looking at me. I'm like, why are you in this classroom? Because it ain't going that well living on the surface. So you might want to join me in the deep dive. And they do. And we have some amazing stories and testimonials. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. There's so many ways to engage with you. We'll get to all of those, of course, but the fact that you're out there offering this kind of work is so important right now. It's so important right now. And the voices like ours are small and quiet, but incredibly powerful. And the hard thing is always trusting that the right people are in the room, somehow or another, that somebody's going to be changed. So when you were first beginning this work, how did you think, oh my gosh, I've got to share this? How am I going to do it? What was that experience like, transforming from, like the corporate executive to the spiritual teacher? In that moment, what was it like for you?
It was the moment of thinking, okay, I'm going to go out there and be a spiritual teacher, was probably 2.5 years long. And by that, I mean, um, I really was uncomfortable, and I didn't trust myself. I didn't, I wasn't doing this from a place of having gone to theology school. I wasn't doing this with my MDiv. I don't have
Yeah.
a master's in divinity. And so there was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of, why would anybody listen to me? And the more that I sat with that, the more I got messaging from humans as a deliverer, and also from, in my meditations and like direct, um, just keep going. And none of them said, when I said, should I go to divinity school? And at one point I was thinking about doing a field licensing through the Unity Church, the Unity Ministry. And I kind of let that go. And part of it was because what I knew from self mastery work was that driver inside me to go get more intellectually based, credentialized knowledge about this topic was the part of me that always, well, that has in the past felt deeply inadequate and deeply unlovable and deeply not enough without those things. It's what I said at the top of our discussion, the
Right.
intellect. And so there was a drive to go get more credentials, and then I would be enough, and go get more credentials, and then I'll be safe, and go get more credentials, and then I'll be okay. And part of my journey has been to detach from that, and to know that that's coming from some very low consciousness, conditioned patterns of belief about myself as a Black woman in this country in the 60s, and the ancestral energy. And so I didn't go do those things. I still read books. I read a lot of books, and I listen, but I don't carry credentials saying I'm the one you should talk to about your spiritual development. I just kind of hung out a shingle and went and did it. One thing that has helped me is believe it or not, the creative side of me. So I've been on stage or acting in very amateur and sometimes goofy ways since I was like 3 years old. I'm a professional improv comedian. I'm on leave of absence since the brain hemorrhage, but I have been on stage. I've been on camera. I have been, I'm a part of an Emmy nominated cast of a children's show. So there's a lot I've done being on stage and in front of. And I think that training, I believe the divine uses that ability in me as a part of my ability to teach. So I don't feel the fear of stage fright. I may feel the fear of, do I know this topic well enough? Can I quote the Quran well enough? Do I know the Bhagavad Gita? Can I bring it into this conversation? And can I talk to my Jewish students as well as I can talk to my Christian students, as well as I can talk to my atheist students? That kind of fear is what I get around. Can I bring inspiration and aspiration to life in them?
Mm-hmm.
That's around the topics of who am I, what am I doing here, and how can I serve?
No, you are definitely living proof that you're dancing your soul light style. There's no doubt. And you've reinforced some things that I think are important to know, for people to know. Love does work. Love saved my marriage when I was in the middle of my divorce, and it took a lot of effort. But another thing too, the keep going part has been a hashtag of mine for like 6 years now. So that's kind of interesting, never.
Hashtag keep on keeping on, baby.
I love that. I love that. But the cool thing about what I love about what you've done, is that you have found the purpose, but you've been able to take this disconnect that you described between the head and the heart, and you have found your own you found your own recipe from the divine, but it's working. And what I get from you, again, it's like all this techno stuff, is that I feel a spiritual consciousness. And I also see a woman, Black woman, American, with this lineage that knows how to use it through the school of hard knocks and experience. And that's the power of your intellect that I know. I mean, it's all these things coming down at once. And living proof is why you're having such a tremendous impact on people's lives, because you're not just topically talking about deep stuff. You're living it at a core level, which is where most people, I truly believe, want to go. Because I really believe most people want to be better. They may be on a different wavelength.
Yeah.
But you're helping them find that. And that to me is just, like I said, third time I've had goosebumps. That is so impressive to meet a real spiritual, loving human being that wants to make a difference on this planet. And if I never meet you in person, just this hour interview is enough to float my boat for quite a long time. I'm just telling you that. And I'm not blowing smoke.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that. deeply.
You are an awesome person, big time. And I know you didn't need me and Bill to tell you that, but I love what you're doing. And tell me, self mastery. You kind of went a little bit on it, but tell me about the Hartley Center. Let what's going on at the Hartley Center.
The Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self Mastery is a fledgling version of what I see in the big picture, the bigger picture. So I have this massive vision, and I'm learning about myself that I often create massive visions, and then it takes me forever to get there because I'm not taking the little intermediate steps. So I'm still in my growth pattern, my growth around what has been implanted, what is the seed within me that wants to blossom, and how to go about that. So it's a fledgling of the vision, but the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery is all about conquering the world with love. People say that, you want to conquer the world? And I'm like, yeah, baby, with love. So it's about self-mastery, as I define, mastering yourself in your life so that you can exquisitely manage whatever your life brings your way. And so exquisitely manage means when I see things like my bank account's empty, or when I see things like filing for bankruptcy, or when I see things like I'm at a crossroads and I don't know whether I should keep this job or go for what I really want. I don't like this job, but it pays the bills, but that's what I want. And I feel that's what I'm called to. So self-mastery says, just like I could understand that I didn't need to go get a credential just to soothe the ego, that why would I go get it? Like, is there something to cultivate that would actually be the right thing to do? So, and mindfulness is about the being part of the name of my book, coming into a stillness, a place of respite in here. Like going on vacation, I have a meditation chair. So going on vacation by lighting a candle, sitting in my meditation chair and just getting still. Like that is what the Hartley Center is about. And so right now, the center is housed on a website, and soon coming, my course at the University of California is going to go from being a face-to-face synchronously taught course to being available digitally, so that students of any age can take it wherever they are, not having to be wherever I am. So that's coming. We have this vision for a beautiful event called the Wholeness Palooza. And
nice. That's really cool.
That's being developed. So the Hartley Center is, I don't know if it might be embryonic. It's actually in the world, so I guess it's got to be beyond embryonic. But the things that I see for the Hartley Center are still developing. And part of that is the gestation in me of my most powerful self. That's still happening.
That's just awesome.
I love that you're putting this out there this way. The world needs it so much. And
yeah.
I'm always amazed at how new teachers show up. You know, we've had so many people teaching Christianity, for example, for a long time. And I'm sure that's probably true for Judaism and Muslim. For all the monotheistic religions, we've had thousands of years of people teaching Tibetan Buddhism. And every iteration, there's a new voice, a new teacher. Somebody shows up who is just like the right individual to lead the world at that time in this way. And maybe it's leading the entire world. Maybe it's leading 3 people. Who knows? But there's a leader that shows. And it's beautiful to me that things like Stoicism have been rediscovered.
Mm-hmm.
And, who was it? Ryan Holiday that wrote those incredible Stoic books. So there's a beauty about the rhythm of the rediscovery of what matters. And it's great to be in this lane, because I feel a little bit, I'm at a different sort of place in life, but I feel an invitation, maybe is the right word, to continue to do this work. Just listening to you talk about how you're doing it for you.
Mhm.
And it's, I mean, people, it's hard, and it's a tough sell, because the answer to the question of, well, what do you get when it's all done, is that you get more of the same but worse. You get, it goes deeper and it feels worse, but the results are so huge. So every time you expand that bandwidth, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you're just, it's like the weight of the world. But oh my gosh, there are inspiring people out there who make it easy, and oh, bless you for
But
saying
you
the way
reminded me of this
forward is
Jackie Shannon
that.
song. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, and
Oh, yeah.
that song, I think a lot of people have heard it, but
There's, well, the next line is really important too. It's the only thing that there's just too little
Too
of.
little of. Yeah.
And
and you brought new meaning. I've been listening to that song ever since I was a squirt, right? But
But wait, John,
Valerie
Jackie
Shepard,
Chan, that's Carpenter's, isn't it?
Jackie Shannon, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I got to look that
They
up.
might, they might have done the cover on it, but Valerie Shepard has brought new meaning to that song.
Absolutely, amen.
And I just put the lyrics there for you all to goof around with it, but they're deep, and I didn't even know the second line. So,
well, just to know, so just first of all, one of the things I love most about that song, one of the lyrics, is the word sweet. Um, because I talk about juicy deliciousness being in my life. I talk about sweetness. Like um, when I started looking at my emotional eating, I got really clear on, I never had a sweet tooth, but I would have these urges where I just had to have ice cream. And I learned to ask myself, so what is the sweetness that's missing from my life that I think the ice cream's going to bring? And then I go get that. I go do the sweetness part. So maybe I haven't done enough prayer today, or maybe I'm not done enough gratitude today, or maybe I haven't talked to a friend who's dear to me today. And when I give myself the sweetness in that form, it doesn't need to come from a sweet treat. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's champagne, no matter what. But other times I have to know, what is my body really calling to me for? So I love that word, sweet. Um, and then I would go back to the second line. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. And I would clarify, love, unconditional love, is in abundance in the universe. It is what the universe is made of. The universe was created out of that principle. Like that principle created all of us. So why is there stuff that looks not like love? Like that's the thing we should all be asking, not on the global scale, but like in me.
Yeah, right
If
here.
I am unconditional love, why did I just speak that way to that person? Right? No blame, no shame, no guilt, no punishment, just a curious inquiry into who am I being and why is that acceptable to me? I don't care if they like it or not. Why is that what I came here to be? We've seen a lot of videos lately that I've said a couple of times, my heart's broken so many times over the last 4 weeks. I don't know how much more there is
it's
to
been
go.
crazy. Yeah.
But so many videos of like the danger of living while Black. And I encourage and invite those people, like to all of those people who are being labeled all kinds of things, which we don't have to use in this program. I will say to them, I love you. And I encourage and invite you, John, here's the invitation. I encourage and invite you to go deep. Watch that tape of yourself. Look at who's coming up, not from a judgment place, but like there was one of those videos that I saw, and I could swear I saw the moment when that person shifted into a vibration that was so low and so disgusting. We have marches all over the world, right? I could see it, and I'm not the only one, I'm sure. But so if I look back at tapes of me and I see myself being something I'm not, like a lot of these people are saying, well, that's not really me. And I don't know what came over me. Well, it's time to go find out.
Yeah.
One of the pivotal questions that I ask my students and